In my last video, we discussed the importance of getting to know your drawing instruments and explored different ways to hold the pen at the front, middle, and end to help you practice drawing lines in various directions using your hand and wrist. We also tackled tapered lines with a bonus exercise. In this video, we'll shift our focus to creating straight, long lines and tracing those lines using movements from the elbow. We'll practice this with both single strokes, multiple strokes, and joined strokes. Let's discuss line speed. We can categorize it into 3 ways to draw your strokes. There's slow, medium, and fast. Sometimes your strokes need to be very precise, moving exactly from point A to point B. Understanding the pace that helps you achieve the best results when drawing these lines, or any kind of line, is very beneficial. Very slow strokes can make your lines a bit wobbly, while fast strokes can make it difficult to achieve high precision. The ideal pace for drawing a line can depend on the length of the stroke and the instrument you're using. As in Lesson 1, experiment to find what works best for you. Generally, slow and medium strokes are excellent for precise, controlled lines, while fast strokes are great for dynamic or exploratory lines, to name a few examples. Try holding the instrument in different ways. To gain more control over longer strokes, keep your hand and wrist in a locked position while allowing your arm to move, letting your lower arm, including your hand, glide over the paper. Consider experimenting with the tilt angle of your drawing surface, whether you're using paper on an art board or a digital drawing tablet. You may find that some lines are easier and more comfortable to draw on a flat, horizontal surface. This also applies to the angles of your arm and hand, as well as the positioning of your paper. When drawing a line from one fixed point to another, it's helpful to keep your attention on the entire distance between the 2 points, while focusing primarily on the end point, rather than the tip of your drawing instrument. Try it out for yourself, starting slowly, then progressing to a medium pace, and finally increasing to a fast pace. Take some time to find out what your comfort level of speed is right now. Keep in mind that this will likely change as you improve, and it may vary depending on the style of artwork you're working on. While there's a general consensus on what works well, the key is to discover what feels right for you. One technique might resonate now, but in a few months you might find another approach more helpful. Remember, it's all part of the discovery process, so take it one step at a time. Next, we will practice tracing lines. To do this, start by repeating the exercise we just completed, but use a different color for your lines. We will now trace over these lines in black. This time, instead of focusing on the endpoint of the line, concentrate on the area slightly ahead of the tip of your drawing instrument. Try to trace the colored line as accurately as you can. If it's wobbly, don't correct it. Instead, trace it just as it is. Once again, when drawing the blue lines, be aware of the entire distance while keeping your focus on the endpoint. Make a mental note of what speed works best for you when drawing small, medium, and long lines, both when creating them from scratch and when tracing. You might notice that there is a difference. And when tracing over the blue lines, focus on the area just ahead of the tip of your drawing instrument. As you can see, tracing lines at a slow or medium pace is likely to yield more precise results. Next, we'll continue our practice of tracing lines. Once again, I'll draw the first set in a different color. Trace over each line 8 times. Now let's do the same with vertical and diagonal lines. If you're a beginner still developing your hand-eye coordination, it's perfectly fine to start with slow strokes. Remember, speed and confidence will come with practice, and the most important thing is to keep drawing. Think of it like learning a magic trick for the first time. You'd likely begin by mastering the movement slowly, focusing on each step. But as you practice more, you'll find that your movements become faster and your confidence grows. Soon enough, you won't have to think about what to do next. It will all come naturally through muscle memory. Sometimes, drawing a long line in one go can be tricky, especially when you need to be precise. In those cases, you can use 2 or more strokes that connect. Just make sure they're tapered so they blend together nicely. Joining lines seamlessly without any visible connection points can be more challenging with some digital brushes or drawing tools than with others. For instance, ink-based pens make it easier since they create solid, dark lines without any transparency. On the other hand, pencil strokes can vary in value depending on how much pressure you apply, so going over a part of a line again will make that area darker. So once again, I recommend getting to know your tools, and you'll do that through practice. We practiced tapered lines in the last video, so this time let's focus on joining those tapered lines together. First, draw a line that's tapered at one end. Next, extend that line with another one that's tapered at both ends. Finally, add a line that's tapered at the starting point but not at the end. And let me demonstrate it one more time in a different way. Make sure the overlapping parts have a lighter value. That way, when you stack them on top of each other, they'll blend in nicely with the rest of the line. Take a moment to practice this. Next, draw straight lines radiating out from a center point in all directions. Try to draw as many lines as you can. All right, we'll move on to our final exercise. After that, we'll dive into a bonus exercise where we'll practice drawing straight, long lines using a template. Go ahead and randomly place marks all over your canvas. Now let's connect the points. Since we'll be tracing over the lines later, I suggest using different colors to keep track of which lines you've already traced. Plus, using different colors will help you see how accurate your traced lines are compared to the originals. I'll speed up the video in the edits, but you don't need to rush. Just find a pace that helps you draw straight lines the best. It can be tricky, especially when working digitally, so don't get frustrated if it feels challenging. You'll improve with time and practice. If it worked for you earlier, Remember to keep an eye on the entire distance between the 2 points, focusing especially on the end point. If drawing long lines feels too challenging, start by drawing on a smaller scale with shorter distances. Gradually increase the distance between each point as you get more comfortable. Now let's trace over the lines. This time, try to focus on the line just a bit ahead of the tip of your pen. You can try these exercises with different drawing tools too. I've been using a pencil brush, but now I'm switching to an ink brush, specifically the G pen, to go over the lines again. I find that in Clip Studio, the G pen makes it easier to create clean lines and line art. So if you have other drawing instruments that work well for your artwork and these exercises, feel free to give those a try as well. Great, let's move on to the bonus exercise. We'll be using this template, and you can download it for free by clicking the link in the description below. If you're working traditionally, make sure to lower the transparency of the template before printing it out, since you'll be tracing over the lines. I've also included a link to a free website below where you can upload the image to adjust the transparency before printing. In the original version, some lines are thicker than others. I'll be using 2 different brush sizes, starting with the thicker lines. Take a moment to see which brush size matches the original one best. In this exercise, I'm using a pencil brush. If possible, choose a drawing tool that allows you to darken some areas later, as we'll continue with this specific drawing in the next video by adding line work and darkening certain areas of the line art we create now. Whether you're working digitally or traditionally, I recommend using a pencil for this exercise or something similar. I'll show you the first couple of lines at a slow pace, and then I'll speed up the video in the edit. Once again, find a pace that works best for you. Start with the lines that feel the least intimidating, and I recommend saving the long lines for last. Tracing perfectly straight lines isn't easy. Normally, you'd use a ruler or the figure tool, as it's called in Clip Studio, for line art like this. So don't be too hard on yourself if it doesn't come out perfectly. My lines aren't perfect either. Remember, this is all about practicing, and trying your best is good enough. We want to discover what works for us and what helps us achieve more satisfying results. If it's too challenging to draw each line in one stroke, try practicing joined tapered lines instead. Be careful not to strain your hand by stiffening it up. If you start to feel tense, take a moment to shake it off and try to relax your hand a bit. If you're drawing digitally, keep in mind that dust particles or scratches on your drawing surface can interfere with getting your lines just right. It's a good idea to clean the surface from time to time, using a screen cleaner spray and a microfiber cloth. Now I'm going to switch to a smaller brush size. As mentioned earlier, we'll be using this line art in the next video, Lines, Lesson 3, so be sure to save your work. If this exercise was too difficult for you, it's perfectly okay to focus on other exercises first, before tackling straight lines again. Remember, you don't have to spend hours on these exercises in one go. You can use them as a warm-up and then switch to your own artwork. And don't worry if you can't finish this exercise for any reason. You can still participate in the upcoming exercises using the original template. If you manage to complete this in one go, fantastic job! Give yourself a pat on the back. I'm really excited about the second part of this exercise in my next video in the series. There will be one exercise that will also help prepare you for a future video focused on texturing hair. That's it for this video. I hope you enjoyed the content. If you did, I'd appreciate a thumbs up or a comment. To stay updated on future uploads, please consider subscribing and don't forget to hit the notification bell. Thank you for watching.